Hey guys, it's official. You all voted in my poll on who you wanted me to review first between Hedorah Flying Stage and Godzilla 1964. Godzilla 1964 won in a landslide with 78%. With all the Godzilla goodness hitting this year on his 70th anniversary and the 50th anniversary of 1964's Godzilla vs. Mothra, who better than one of the more beloved suit designs to get some shine? Godzilla has had many physical iterations throughout his 70-year history, from the iconic original 1954 debut to the wildly frightening Shin design. Everyone has their favorite, and a large majority regard the Musou Goji, Godzilla 1964, one of the best from the Showa era. Following the bulky Saurian look from the King Goji from King Kong vs. Godzilla, the Musou Goji takes the design idea and slims it down for a less animated, slender, and pondering form. In Mothra vs. Godzilla, the kaiju is portrayed more as a force of nature rather than the giddy arm-flapping opponent from the previous film. Gone is his narrow head and thunderous thighs. Now an almost gaunt yet more flexible suit is utilized in his battle with the gigantic kaiju moth. Though a direct sequel, the contrasts are apparent, and afterwards, the monsters would evolve to have more personality in subsequent films, but keeping with the more flexible body style. In the film, Godzilla awakens from being washed ashore from his previous bout with Kong, left with no opposition to rampage through Japan until the advent of Mothra, through the pleading of the main characters after a trek to Infant Island. The idea on paper sounds, well, silly. What can a moth do against a radioactive spewing monster? But Godzilla vs. Mothra, or Mothra vs. Godzilla, is one of the Showa's best spectacles, and is mandatory for anyone who wants to get into the franchise. Spoiler: anyone under the pretense that Godzilla wins in all his movies will find this one as the last remaining films where he's portrayed as an all-out bad guy. Now, I have my favorite Godzilla designs. I love King Goji, as a display of sheer physical proportions. The Destroy All Monsters design is for its classic idea of the Showa look. 1955's Gyakushu Goji is a slender vampiric look that I admire. The Bio Goji of Godzilla vs. Biollante is one of my very favorite modern interpretations. But there's no denying this guy, and in hand it's one of the best efforts from Bandai. So beloved is this iteration, it was a model for his sprite in my often referenced favorite NES game, Godzilla Monster of Monsters. Bandai had previously released two versions of this design, an 8-inch version from the 1983 and smaller 6-inch version from 2005's Memorial Box. The Memorial Box version is very similar to the new one, but unfortunately I never acquired said set. Otherwise, this would have been made for an Ace Versus video. But alas, let's take a look. Godzilla is cast in a charcoal green, which makes him some shades lighter than most of the Bandai Godzillas from the movie monster series, the Showa variety. Bringing attention to his brows, they are highlighted in a light olive tone, breaking up the duller charcoal green base vinyl color. The eyes are nicely done, conveying a lack of empathy from his upturned stare. The mouth has a beautiful paint app. The teeth are a nice bone white, and the inner cavity and tongue are a deep red. His chest also has a spray down the middle of the same olive from his brows, albeit lighter, but still apparent. His nails on both hands and feet are given a nice lemon yellow application, and his dorsal fins are sprayed with a nice white. The paintwork is on a high note here, especially when compared to the last year's Varan store exclusive, which felt very minimal. The sculpt is on point. Let's start with the head because the look is captured near perfect. As I stated before, this iteration has a rounder head when compared to King Goji, eliminating the crocodilian shape. When I saw images of this figure, I thought the upper lip looked too chunky and was worried that the suit's rubbery upper lip would not be translated well. I am happy to say in hand that it looks great. This will become the standard head shape for most of the Showa era, with smooth brows and large eyes. His neck has all those folds and wrinkles that imply that this is a managed suit, which, as you already know, I absolutely love. Musou Goji's body is also spot on. a more slimming version, there is very little bulginess here, which is accurate. The textures are defined, not so terribly smoothed over as, say, Godzilla 55. This version always had the feeling of a more physically mobile creature, because the bulk had been reduced. His arms are bent at the elbows, with his hands open as it is ready to grasp something. While most Godzilla vinyls have a distinct arm pose, Godzilla 64 truly expresses an aggressive sculpt, with hands open with intent of grasping his target. I do want to point out on how spot on his feet are. Big, flat, with a toenail spread out. Probably the most unflattering feet of all the various suits from this era. Well done, Bandai. Maybe it's the fact that this year celebrates Godzilla's 70th birthday, or maybe I'm just reading into it too much. But this figure has actual head rotation. For the life of me, I can't fathom the basis for the decision to choose which figure wins the lotto over at Bandai, but this guy is definitely a winner. Of course, as to be expected, 64's arms and legs offer full 360 rotation as well. The tail, once again sporting a rotation crease, is fused to the body, allowing for zero movement. I have a feeling we'll be seeing more Showa suits this year at some point. Let's see if they get the same star treatment. So, I wanted to start with various versions of G that I have to compare. The 1954 original, the 1955 Counterattack, the Destroy All Monsters Classic, and the 1974 vs. Mechagodzilla version. An obvious observation here is the base color is lighter than most, with perhaps the 1955 being the only other distinguishable vinyl base. 64 maintains the look of a malicious monster. I've stated in a previous video also that this version of Mothra makes for a good Showa stand-in, especially for this new Godzilla 64. In the film, Mothra absolutely dwarfs the King of the Monsters, as is this vinyl rendition. It's also pretty close to the original design to get a pass from me as far as display options go. And her kids. Adding the 91 Mothra larva works pretty well also, and while I don't have two of these to represent the twins, I do have the Mothra larva from the Rebirth of Mothra, aka Mothra Leo, to display along with them. In all honesty, I consider myself a selective purchaser of vinyl goods from Bandai. Otherwise, this channel wouldn't be so selective in theme. When I first saw the image of the Mosogoji promo shots, I liked what I saw, but figured I would only be getting Minya and Hedorah flying stage from this wave, as I was more interested in getting the unique kaiju to display. This became something of an impulse buy, and I do not regret it. I really do like this better than I expected, but everyone's tastes will vary. What do you think, Jet Jaguar?
Punch, 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 punch!
6 punches, of course. This is an outstanding figure, continuing Bandai's winning streak of recent releases. I really don't have any negative criticisms for this vinyl. It perfectly captures the look of the 1964 suit. The paint apps are great, and the added head articulation boosts the appeal. Now that I have this in hand, I can't think of any reason for you not to get this, unless you are only interested in one rendition of the King. And if that is the case, this is a great rendition to start. Thank you to everyone who participated in the poll. I appreciate your likes, comments, and shares. I always try to respond to everyone because I like interacting with the like-minded fans of Godzilla. If you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel. It's the best way to tell me you like my content, and I will continue to work at improving future videos. Thank you so much for watching.